I was acting opposite Winona Ryder. On the first day of filming, she walked up to me and out of a grocery bag, she pulled out a Replacements tour t-shirt from their farewell tour that she had bought in 1991.
Welcome to the Spark Parade, where I talk to your favorite artists about the movies and music that sparked their inspiration. Today, I am here with the one and only John Gallagher Jr. to talk about his spark, Replacements frontman Paul Westerberg's first solo album, 14 songs.
Thank you so much. Great to see you. Thanks for having me. I so appreciate it.
Can you remember hearing 14 songs for the first time? This can be a general period if you don't have the exact moment pinpointed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of funny because, you know, I've been a Replacements fan since my late teens, but I really didn't. I didn't really pick up Paul Westerberg's solo output until really in the last like 6-ish years or so. I had heard like some of the greatest hits, like there's a great compilation that he put out when I'd heard like Dyslexic Heart and a couple of his singles, but it was around sort of 2021. I remember fairly vividly that I had just played I'd done a huge deep dive on the Replacements because I'd played like a cover night where I'd learned a ton of Replacement songs and played with a band, and it was super fun. And I had just finished reading Trouble Boys, which is Bob Mayer's incredible book about the Replacements. Highly recommended to any Replacements fans out there. It's incredible. And I'd sort of like OD'd on the Replacements. Like I was sort of like, oh my gosh, I've listened to everything. I've got nothing left. I've heard all the stories. I've watched every single YouTube video that I could, you know, scrounge off the internet floor. And I wanted more. And then it struck me like, oh my God, I've never really listened to Paul Westerberg's solo output. And, you know, his work with the Replacements is incredible. And he'd become one of my favorite songwriters as the frontman of that band. And then I suddenly realized I had this treasure trove of material that I had not jumped into. And I think I was guilty of that thing that I think a lot of music lovers it can be from time to time, of thinking like, oh, I don't want the solo stuff. Like it won't be as good. Like give me the Nats, give me the grungy stuff, give me when he was self-destructive and drinking heavily and it was dark and intense and messy. I don't want to hear the older, chilled out, like major label stuff, you know. Very, very wrong-headed of me. And so, yeah, I was actually shooting a film. I was shooting a film in the sort of Bay Area of California, because I also act, and a lot of time to kill. I had a rental car, and I'm a New Yorker, so I don't find myself behind the wheel very often, but I was driving myself to and from set every day, and I put on 14 songs one day. I was like, well, let me see what Paul's first solo record sounded like, and I sort of immediately just fell right into it, like a cozy bed of rock and roll. I was like, this really works for me. It speaks to me because it has sort of this swagger and bravado that is, you know, so present in all of the Replacements records. But there's also, you know, he got sober right around the time that he made that record. He was going through all these life changes, this transition sort of out of a bad boy rock and roller to now being a solo singer-songwriter that obviously had a lot more to say, a lot more sides of himself to show. I loved how there's so much acoustic stuff on the record, but it rocks. It is a rock and roll record, but with sort of a soft-heartedness. And it spoke to me immediately.
Sometimes when a singer from a band goes solo, it feels like this is great, but it's just kind of a continuation of what the band was. Mm-hmm. And this felt like he was very much, you know, setting out on his own and doing things that he hadn't been able to do in the, you know, confines of what the Replacements were.
Right.
And that's really exciting. It's like, you know, you want to see artists taking chances or just like doing stuff that makes them happy. And that's going to, I think that comes through in the music too, that it's like he was really doing stuff that he wanted to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And there's also sort of to speak to what you just brought up, there's sort of a melancholy present because it does sort of feel like, I don't know why I just flashed on. This isn't even like a film I'm a diehard for, but I always think of the end of Superbad, where Jonah Hill and Michael Cera, sort of these friends, are sort of going off and sort of waving goodbye to each other and keep looking over their shoulder to sort of say, like, this is the next chapter. Like, this friendship that we had obviously could only sort of last in this particular way at this particular moment. And I almost feel that there's sort of this sort of sad farewell to his past and to the replacements, that you can certainly hear it on All Shook Down, as they're sort of, falling apart for good. But yeah, I love how it's sort of, there's a euphoria and a melancholy that I sort of feel sort of baked into that record.
It's so distinct, and yeah, it's like a completely different thing to what he had been doing before, which is it's really exciting.
There's a video, a part of my sort of fandom of this record sort of expanded at the time. The funny thing is the film that I was making when I sort of fell in love with this record, I was acting opposite Winona Ryder in this film, which was like, mind-boggling and a total dream come true. Been such a fan of hers for decades and decades, along with, she was an early crush, much like, many of my generation and other generations as well. So getting to meet her was so fun and so exciting and so thrilling. And when I showed up for my first day of filming, I don't know how she does this, because she doesn't have a social media presence, but she must have sort of some lurkers or spies out there in her camp, because on the first day of filming, she walked up to me and out of a grocery bag, she pulled out a Replacements tour t-shirt from their farewell tour that she had bought in 1991. And she was like, I heard you're a big Replacements fan. So she gave me this, this vintage Replacements tee. And she said, oh, every concert that I think I've ever been to, I buy multiple t-shirts. You should see my closets. There's like so many vintage tour t-shirts in there. And I cherish the shirt. It's quite huge on me. I am definitely swimming in it. It's hard to wear outside of the house, but I love it. And it sort of sparked my interest in going a little bit deeper into Paul, because she was telling me about knowing him back in the day and being an early Replacements fan. And we were filming in where she grew up in Petaluma, California. And we filmed in the back of this sort of amazing old theater. I think I want to say it's called the Phoenix, or maybe it's called the Fox, but I think I misconstrued them in my head, so I'll have to look it up. But she was like, oh, this is now it's sort of a DIY punk space, but it used to be sort of an outpost for bigger bands that were passing through Petaluma. And she was like, I think this is the first venue in which I saw the Replacements, and I got there early and I watched them come in and I asked for their autograph, and they were like, who is this child? Who's this young girl that is obsessed with our band? And that sparked a friendship between them and some dating rumors at the time, I think, as is described in Bob's amazing book. But yeah, it sent me down the rabbit hole even further. And when I was sitting in, my hotel room at night after filming, I found this clip. There's this amazing episode of Jules Holland where Paul Westerberg and the solo band, it's Josh Freese playing drums, sounds amazing. I go back to his interviews a lot because I just listen to him talk. He's incredibly smart about his process as a musician, as a songwriter. And he also has this thing that I feel like is so incredibly hard to come by, where you get this sense that he obviously cares a really great deal, because no one would sit down and choose to be a songwriter if they didn't care. You have to care, I think, to kind of carry that torch and do that work for a living. But there is also this sense of, I think, once it's out, it's like he gives it away. It's not a big deal. I know there's something I really respect about the nonchalance. Obviously it's an industry of people trying very, very hard to seem cool and very, very hard to seem like they don't care when they really, really, really care. And he's sort of struck this balance to me that I come back to a lot, where it's like I find myself saying, what would Paul Westerberg do, a lot when I'm in the studio, or when I'm putting on a show, or when I'm sort of feeling, bummed about the state of the industry, or the state of how my records are doing, or what have you. I just think, like, well, what would Paul Westerberg do in a time like this? That I come back to that a lot.
Yeah, I he did an interview with Rolling Stone around the time that this album came out, and they were asking him questions, like saying, well, what do you think? Like, would the replacements have been as big as REM, for example, if there hadn't been so much chaos? And he's like, look, maybe, like, they did everything right and we fucked everything up all the time. But he's still kind of philosophical about stuff and just saying, like, I'm just putting out music and I'm happy to be able to keep doing this regardless of the level of success that I have. And he's like, I'm maybe a little bit famous, but I'm not that famous, and I'm just kind of doing my thing. With that Jules Holland performance, he another big one I think was doing SNL again after the notorious incident
Right.
of never being allowed
The
back.
best performance ever on SNL.
Oy.
I come back to that one a lot too.
Yeah.
The
It's
SNL
great.
performance is great. I love the mythology too, that apparently, Lorne Michaels, who's so apparently, rumored to be very steadfast in his banning. Like if you're banned on SNL, it's a one-way street. We don't go back. But who knows if this is true or not. But of course, the mythology is that he just didn't know that when he booked Paul Westerberg, the solo artist, he didn't know he was the lead singer of the band that had, trashed the place in 1986 and gotten Harry Dean Stanton a little bit drunk before the live taping. But he sounds phenomenal on that performance. That live band was tremendous. And actually Dan, the guitar player, and Josh Freese in that solo band would later go on, to be in the Reunited replacements in 2013 when they started doing their reunion shows. And it, funnily enough, is the only time that I've been to Coachella was because I was living in LA in 2014 and I went to see the replacements and only the replacements. There's the only act that I caught, but I was like, I don't know if they're going to do a full tour. They ended up doing the full reunion tour, but I did get to catch the Reunited replacements at Coachella of all places, which was a strange place to see them because it was an interesting environment. But they made it their own. I remember Paul dragged a couch out on stage and sort of took his microphone over to it and sat. Apparently he had hurt his back shoveling snow, was what I was told. It had been a snowy April in the Twin Cities, and he had hurt his back. So he actually called Billy Joe Armstrong out on stage, who was at the show, and Billy ended up playing a bunch of the songs with him to take some of the load off him. I mean, that's the thing too, that I'm a singer-songwriter, I'm a solo artist. I write all the music and I write all the lyrics, but I play solo shows. I really enjoy playing solo acoustic shows. I get a lot out of that, and I love the flexibility of being able to sort of change the set list every night and play whatever I want, and a lot of interaction with the fans, and I can sort of control the dynamic. But I love rock bands. I'm a rock band person. That's what I like to listen to, and that's how I like to play. But Paul Westerberg is sort of one of the gold standards to me of the fact that he is a singer-songwriter, apparently writes a lot on acoustic and then brings it to the rock band and then kind of comes out of the gate with that. And so I really respect that and sort of emulate that. The last two records that I've made, we definitely dialed up a lot of Westerberg solo records, in the control room, because I was like, no, guys, listen to this. Listen to how good this sounds. It's a singer-songwriter record, but with a big, loud rock band, So I feel like I am always sort of aiming for that.
Yeah. And I think the sound is a big element of it, but also the way he writes lyrics. It's not quite conversational because it's very, very clearly a song, but he speaks in a way that you can imagine somebody speaking about whatever subject he's talking about to a person in front of them instead of, in a performance setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he is really natural and off the cuff in that way. And it always does blow my mind that, that he's confessed to to writing, like in the room, that he sort of has this faith and this trust and this that he, he's like, I don't want to do too many takes, and I don't want to overthink it. I want to get in and lay it down and get out, and the mistakes will become part of the music. It's a very, very old school sort of way of looking at it. Like, there were 9 out of 10 times they were learning it in the studio. I think Josh Freese talks about, he's like, oh yeah, the take on the record, that was me learning it. Like, that was us basically rehearsing it. And Paul was like, great, we got it. I was like, you don't want me to do it again? He's like, no, I think that's good. I think we got it. Let's not overthink it.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Like, I also read there's a line that is on, it's definitely on World Class Fab, but it's somewhere else in the album that's like, what suicide you're on,
right?
Like that. And he said, somebody was asking him about that, and they're like, yeah, that phrase appears twice. Like, what was the thinking behind that? And he's like, yeah, I mean, we noticed it. We were kind of debating about whether that should happen because it was in 2 different songs, but like, I don't know. I thought it was kind of neat.
Yeah.
So it doesn't need to be anything more than that. It's just like this instinctual, I don't think impulsive is the right word, but it's just like, I like that.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right. It's your thing, you can sort of call the shots.
Yeah.
I mean, I love him in that era. There's some great behind the scenes stuff you can dial up on YouTube too, and just sort of see how sort of playful and in his element he is, making that music, and sort of, being able to call the shots. I think it seems sort of wholeheartedly for the first time, without the complications that when you're fronting a band and you're calling all the shots, obviously it gets dicey. But when you're the solo artist, and and then you can sort of do it your way, it really comes through. And yeah, just lyrically, I just love, like you just sort of nailed it. Like, it's non-performative. Like, it really just sort of feels like you listen to those records, sort of feels like it feels a little bit like you stumbled into a rehearsal, and you're just sort of like, oh, I'm catching up with what they're playing and what this person's talking about. It doesn't really sort of feel like I'm singing at you and I need you to understand this. I need you to hear it. It's sort of like, no, we're just doing it. And if you dig it, you can stick around and listen. That's sort of the vibe I get from his records. I think that's why I love him so much, because it really feels like he's doing it for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Somebody's got to use this word. It may as well be me. It feels authentic.
Yes.
He's, there's no like, pretension.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like aspiring to, he doesn't have some kind of agenda that is about making people look at him and say, what a genius.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's speaking from the heart, and those things that you're saying, like just making decisions in the studio about which take to use, and just like saying this is what feels right in the moment, and getting it on the record, and people connect with it.
Yeah, I really feel that. Yeah, there's sort of he's not putting on airs in a way, and I mean that's that's how you get the sort of ultimate. I think when you achieve sort of an ultimate cool, it's because you're like, I'm not trying to be a star or be cool. And I wonder. I mean, I fantasize about getting another. I know he put some music out with Juliana Hatfield in the last decade, I think it was. But I dream about getting another Westerberg solo record. Just so curious as to like, because I'm sure he's working on stuff. I wonder what it sounds like. I would definitely be there. I'd be one of the first. I'd pre-order it. I would pre-save the single and go above and beyond. But yeah, just worship the guy.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, he definitely is going to listen to this. So
we're
saying,
whoa,
buddy,
cool. Yeah,
But
I mean, I hope I haven't annoyed him. You know, he does have you know, he's rumored to be a slightly cantankerous fellow, and I
yes,
would
yeah.
it'd be one of those things of like you speak ad nauseum about you know, hero worship only to annoy your hero, maybe.
No, I
Hopefully
think
not.
this is the nudge he needs to
Yeah.
make an action. He's like, you know what? They're
I
right.
will make
I need
another
to
solo
release some
record,
new
John
stuff.
Gallagher,
Yeah.
whoever you are. Thank you. Glad you caught me at Coachella.
We'll just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, exactly.
That
A
magic
boy
will
can dream.
come back to us
Yeah.
sometime soon. I think that lingering hope is
Yeah.
a wonderful place to stop.
Absolutely.
This has been so much fun. I always say this when I have a situation like this, talking to people who understand the assignment, have this very clear, strong connection to what they're talking about, always makes my job easier. So this has been a real pleasure.
For me as well. Yeah, thank you for letting me go on and on.
No, this is great. This is the stuff we're looking for. So.
Thanks, Adam.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, do you want more conversations with incredible people talking about the movies and music they love? Then subscribe to the Spark Parade YouTube channel.